Hello and welcome. We are live. This is Pam Bartha. Just going to wait for people to come and join us. So I'm very excited to spend this time with you. I hope you guys had a wonderful holiday weekend. I sure did with my family. We're going to get started right away. Just want to make sure you guys can hear me. Awesome. So welcome. The topic today is eating plan, and that's a huge one. And so many of us suffer with chronic disease. Hello, you guys are joining me. Hello, Caroline, and hello, Anne. So many of us suffer with chronic disease, multiple sclerosis, but other chronic diseases. And we know that diet is really important, but we're really not sure what to eat. There are so many diets out there, and a lot of them have merits. A lot of them are healthy and good. But how do we find the right diet for us? What is the most important eating plan? And I like to call it an eating plan and not a diet, because really we don't want to be dieting for the rest of our life. We want to find an eating plan that feeds our body and makes us healthy and strong. So welcome, my name is Pam Bartha, and I am the author of Become a Wellness Champion and founder of Live Disease Free. And I am super excited to spend this time with you because I'm going to be sharing with you the foods that I eat every day. Some of you may not have met me before, but I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis 28 years ago, and I've been able to keep it in remission without any MS pharmaceuticals because I follow very, very specific steps. And one of the steps is the eating plan. So I'm going to be sharing with you what I eat to give you guys some ideas. I just wanted to say hello to a few people, and I'm just going to pull you up on my computer here so that I can see your questions. Otherwise, I won't see your questions. So I would please, if you know other people that are searching for the right things to eat, they're not sure, they want some ideas on the best eating plan to help them recover from chronic disease, including multiple sclerosis.
Pull you up on my computer.
There we go. I forgot to turn the audio off. So there we go. All right, so hello Laura Lee and Jeff and Megali and Bridget and Norris. So while we're together, what I'd like you guys to do is just type in your questions in the question box, and at the end I'll be getting to your questions. So maybe you might have something that you really like to eat and you're wondering if there's a substitution that you could use in place of in a certain dish. But I'm going to give you the ideas of what I'm eating. So please share this Facebook Live and please send some love my way, because I'm looking at a little dot on my phone and it's really nice to interact with people. So what I eat. All right, so we know that there are a ton of eating plans out there. There is paleo, there is Whole30 now, there is the autoimmune, there is GAPS, there is the specific carbohydrate diet, there's the Mediterranean diet, there's many, many different eating plans. And how do we know which is the right eating plan for us? If you have been following me for any time, you know that what I teach is that when we have disease symptoms, it's stemming from one of three things. Number one, it's in chronic silent infections in our body. Number two, nutritional deficiencies. And number three, toxins. All right, and so most of the nutritional deficiencies are coming from these infections because they're parasites and they're eating a lot of our food and our nutrients, but also they produce a lot of toxins which cause a lot of inflammation, and our body is fighting them. So the big thing is that we know that diet is really important in recovery, but many of us are very confused as to which eating plan to follow. So what I follow is the Live Disease Free eating plan. And it's called the Live Disease Free eating plan because I have not found anything out there that is exactly like this. And if I call it something different, people go and they go in a different direction and they don't follow it correctly, and then they don't get the same results. So it's a combination of things. And why do we follow this eating plan? It is incredibly powerful in a way that it feeds your body with really important nutrients, because we want our body to be strong. We want our body to help in the recovery. So when we have symptoms of chronic disease, we have infections, and we want our immune system, thank you so much for all the love, we want our immune system to be in the fight with us. We don't want to just be popping pills. We want our immune system to be engaged in the battle. So we have to feed the body. and we want to weaken those infections. We cannot starve them with any eating plan, including this eating plan. By the time we have chronic disease, we have to do much more than an eating plan. But the eating plan is very powerful because we have to weaken those infections a little bit. Many of those microbes that are making us sick, they thrive on carbohydrates. And so we're greatly reducing the carbohydrates down below 50 grams of carbs per day. The sweet spot seems to be around 35 to 40. But when we get down that low, we find that we recover so much quicker. It's so much easier to treat those infections. It's still not really easy, but it will be much more effective when we're treating the infections. So the guidelines that we follow in this Live Disease-Free Eating Plan is that we are going off of all grains, and we are going off of all sugar, and we are getting our carbohydrates down really, really low. And today I'm going to be telling you about what you can eat, all right, what I eat. And I actually follow this eating plan. Why? Well, number one, how could I teach it if I didn't follow it? And number two, I just found that I feel so much better on this eating plan. I really think it's going to be huge. It really, like I said, it fuels the body, but it also, and it fuels the good guys, those good microbes that we're trying to rebuild, but it does not fuel the bad guys. And that's the important thing. And then once we get this part, this first step, then we can go to the other steps in treating those infections so that we can get well. So some different things that I eat for breakfast. Let's start with breakfast. Number one, I have a lot of vegetables with breakfast. And with this eating plan, we have 3 big platefuls a day, or 9 to 13 servings of vegetables a day, according to the USDA. What they're telling us is that our food is so deficient in nutrients, that's what we should be eating each day anyway. So we're following that, and we're doing 9 to 13 servings of vegetables a day. Now, if you have any type of inflammatory bowel disease, you know you can't do that. You know that it's going to make you very sick. You'll spend a lot of time in the bathroom, and that's not what you should do. So when you're starting, if you have any type of inflammatory bowel, make sure to eat the vegetables that agree with you, that are allowed, but also make sure that you don't eat a lot of raw food. So that you are going to steam, saute, oven roast, stir fry your vegetables. And you'll notice that if you follow this eating plan and you follow that advice, that as you are starting to eat this way and set the stage and treat the infections, your intestines are going to heal and you'll be able to eat lots of raw vegetables, all right? But listen to your body, all of you. All of these videos are for educational purposes. I don't know anything about you, and I'm just sharing with you what's worked for me and what's working for my students. So for breakfast, I have a lot of vegetables, so I'm not having any grains throughout the day. So what I really like is arugula. So I'll take a big helping of arugula, which will cover, at least half of my plate in the center. And I will pour olive oil on it, and then I will have a couple of eggs, and I will do them sunny side up or over easy, but I just have usually a couple of eggs with some arugula. And then sometimes if it's in the winter and I want to have something a little bit warmer, I may take some spinach, and I try to find spinach that is grown in the dirt because it has a lot more flavor, there's a lot more nutrients. Sometimes we can't. I'm in Canada and the winters, like we have to get everything shipped in. But wherever possible, if you can get the bigger leaf lettuce that usually has a tie around it and you know what was grown in the dirt because you see some of the dirt at the bottom. But if it's in good shape, and that's to make sure, if it's a little bit rotten, don't buy it. But if it's in good shape, then I will steam quite a bit of spinach. So I'll have a big helping of spinach with eggs. I usually eat eggs. I don't know why, I'm not sick of them. But some of my students, they are allergic to eggs and they can't eat eggs. So what they would have, I've seen some of my students do a big stir fry for breakfast. I've done that also, where one of the male students, he had a pork stir fry. It looked delicious. You can do chicken. You can have soup that's left over. You can have a salad. It doesn't matter. It's whatever you have in the fridge, whatever you have planned. All right. So that would be for breakfast. So things like kale is really good too. I may take a pan and tear up a bunch of kale, and I might use coconut oil, or if you're going to heat the oil, make sure you're using a heat stable oil like avocado oil, butter, or extra virgin coconut oil. All of your healthy fats should be organic, extra virgin. You want it to be extra virgin and cold pressed so it is not rancid or denatured. Really important. We want to be putting in healthy fats. So I might take a frying pan and just warm it up to medium low heat and add some butter. But if I'm doing kale, I might use some coconut oil. I kind of like that flavor. Then I might throw in a few slices of onions, and I like the sweet onions. You can use any cooking onions, whatever I have. Then I will add on the kale, and I'll pour a few little drops of water into so that it's sauteing a little bit with a little bit of moisture, not a lot, with a lid on it. And give it just a couple, 3 minutes until the kale is nice and bright green and it's a little bit softer. It's still got its texture, but it's just a little easier to eat. Then I will plop a couple of eggs in that and then put the lid back on and let it cook for another couple of minutes until the eggs are cooked, until all the white is cooked. So that is another great one. So I like kale sometimes. Sometimes you can buy baby kale. So instead of the arugula, I might use baby kale. Use different greens. And Swiss chard is really awesome too. And what I like to do is I cut the ribs out of the Swiss chard and then I slice them diagonally or lengthwise so they're strips, and I will put that in the bottom of the stainless steel steaming rack and then put the chopped up Swiss chard in it. So I will steam the Swiss chard and then have a couple of eggs with that. What I also love to do is add the raw sauerkraut. So that's bringing in the good guys. And the very best raw sauerkraut is homemade, absolutely. But unfortunately, I haven't had a lot of time lately to do that. But it is so delicious, the raw sauerkraut. So I'll have at least half of my plate will be with the greens. And then I might even take a little bit of avocado, a couple of slices, or whatever vegetable you have in the fridge. So it could be partially steamed, it could be raw. Have fun with it. Just use your imagination. For whatever reason, I don't put the lemon juice on the greens in the morning, but I do on my salad at lunchtime. I just use the oils. So when you add in enough healthy oil and you have the protein, whether it's from eggs or whether it's from meat, any type of meat, then you are going to feel satisfied. And then you have all of the vegetables for the roughage, and you're taking in the fiber to help build up those good guys, and you're having the raw sauerkraut, so you're taking in the good guys. If you've never had raw sauerkraut before, make sure to start slow. It's very, very well tolerated with my students. I've rarely, if ever, seen people that react to it. But again, you know your body, and if you have a sensitive body, then just start slow. So that would be some different ideas for breakfast. Then for snack time, I work a lot. So I'm always in meetings talking to different people, and I honestly usually just grab a small handful of nuts. And I have my water beside me, and I'll be talking more about my working environment, but basically I just usually grab a small handful of nuts and then I carry on working. Because my breakfast, because I have so many calories from the healthy fat and the protein, I am satisfied for at least 2 to 3 hours. You'll have a lot of mental clarity when you have protein and healthy fat. Your blood sugar becomes very stable and you have a lot of thinking power. So many of you that are dealing with the brain fog and memory issues, you'll find that when you switch to this eating plan, that your blood sugar becomes very steady and you're going to find that you perform a lot better. So that's why this eating plan is going to be so huge. So that's what I eat in the morning. And then when I get to lunch, I'm just in a habit of, I always have my big salad at lunchtime. And when I say a big salad, it is like from the middle to the very edge of the plate. And sometimes I look at it and I say, oh my goodness. But I eat the whole thing and it's usually about, 2 to 3 inches high. And I really like romaine because it has texture and it has nice flavor and it is more filling. If I would avoid things like iceberg lettuce, maybe use that for a wrap, possibly if you're going to do, let's say, a hamburger, or if you're going to do tacos minus the shell, you can use the iceberg lettuce for a wrap. But honestly, I would not use iceberg because there's not a lot of nutrition. There's fiber and water, but not a lot of nutrition. Or green leaf lettuce. And I don't have the arugula because I have that usually with breakfast, and I have kale with breakfast. So I will have usually romaine. And then I will always have things like cucumber in it and some slices of peppers. green, red, yellow, whatever looks good, whatever price was right in the grocery stores. And I will add on some onion and then whatever vegetables I have in the fridge. Sometimes I'll add on some chopped cauliflower or broccoli, a couple of slices of avocado to mix it up so you don't get bored. It's nice to buy wherever you can find fresh herbs, or maybe you have it growing in your garden, or maybe you're gonna have a garden soon. I would encourage you to start growing some herbs. So the dill, like if you put dill on your salad, it's a completely different taste than if you would put basil. Oh, let me backtrack. What we love in the summertime is taking big leaves of basil, and when I do my eggs, fry them in the frying pan, I'll put big leaves of basil on top. It gives it such a nice flavor. So back to the salads, there is cilantro is awesome too. So chopping up cilantro and sprinkling that on, adding black olives without the vinegar. So any olives that you have that are not in vinegar, that are dried, are perfectly fine and tasty. So you could literally take one salad and put like oregano on it with some black olives and different types of vegetables. And another day you could have the dill, another day you could have the cilantro. So just have fun with it. That's how you keep things from becoming bored, having boredom with your eating plan. Sometimes I will make things like usually more as a side. I might make the Greek salad minus the cheese, right? So I will add the tomatoes and onions and cucumbers and olives, olive oil and oregano and pepper, and I like lemon juice. So on this eating plan, you can have apple cider vinegar, but I feel the best when I have fresh lemon juice or fresh lime juice. So you guys just play around with it and see what works best for you. So there are lots of different salads. You can do coleslaws, but I just find that for lunch, a big green salad is very satisfying, filling for at least 2 to 3 hours, and a lot of nutrients in it. All right, so that's what I do for lunch, and I will mix it up. Then what I do for supper, and remember that right now I'm in a phase in my life where I'm super busy. I don't know why, things just get busier as I'm getting older. It's supposed to slow down. But because I'm so busy, and it's really because I'm helping hundreds of people, but I don't spend a lot of time looking for recipes. I would love to, but I don't. I personally, as long as I'm full and I feel satisfied, that's what's important to me. So for supper, I will have, one of our family favorites is to do a taco salad. So this is where we will get good quality ground beef. And so this would be from a local butcher. So I know that they haven't put any of that. It's a chemical that makes the hamburger look really bright red. So we'll get some good quality ground beef, and we don't have all organic or grass-fed. That would be ideal, but most families in our area cannot afford it. We do not have a big supply of that. So sometimes they have it, but most often it's not grass-fed. But what I do is I try to avoid the fat on the beef that is grown in our local feedlots because they're fed GMO corn, and a lot of that fat is not good. So with the hamburger, I will put in I'll brown it up and I'll put my own spices in it. There's lots of recipes online where it's basically a cumin, and it would be paprika and chili powder and pepper, and you can add garlic, and you can put little pieces of sauteed onions and peppers in it if you like. So you can have fun with that. But those are the basic spices that you would look for in a recipe. And so then what we would do is layer. So we would have the hamburger. Oh, and we will make our own guacamole. So we'll take some fresh avocados and we will add fresh lime to it, lots of garlic, salt and pepper. And I think that's pretty much it for the guacamole. So then we will just layer. We'll have some peppers cut up and some tomatoes cut up and some onions cut up. And for myself, I will just have those vegetables with lettuce and the hamburger meat and the avocado. Whereas my son, who doesn't have any history of illness or sickness, he may have a little bit of rice with it. He may have also refried beans, where I just have it this way. And then if I'm eating in restaurants, I can buy or get fajitas, which would be the stir fry of the onions and the peppers, and then you have the chicken, and I would just put all of that in a lettuce wrap. But at home, I just like to do it as a salad flat on the plate. And I'm careful not to overdo it with avocado also, because avocado, although it is super healthy, super full of good, healthy fats. If you eat a whole avocado, if you're trying to recover, that can be almost 20 grams of carbs a day, like half of your daily allowance, just with one food item. So that's why you just be careful not to eat too much avocado. So, and we will make different stews, but the stews, we will not thicken the gravy, and we'll add lots of vegetables in it. We can make soups. Big favorite is hamburger soup. We'll make hamburger soup where we will brown the hamburger and cook it for a while to make the stock taste good, and maybe add a bay leaf and some pepper and salt into it. But the key is that when you're ready, just to really load it up with vegetables, right? So that it's mostly vegetables with some meat in it. And so when I'm eating, I'm not eating huge amounts of protein, because I don't think that's very healthy. That's what the studies show. But eating moderate amounts of protein is very, very healthy. And it gives you a lot of mental clarity, and it really helps you to think clearly, to perform well, to have lots of energy. It keeps your blood sugar steady. So that's the key. So with the meal ideas for suppers, it could be that we have, lamb chops even, and my husband has this really beautiful, and I'm going to find it from him, and we will post it in our blog, where it's just a blend of spices and herbs. It's mostly herbs and then he just pan fries them, and they're delicious. So usually my suppers will be some protein, whether it's chicken or lamb, or it could be, I'm not a huge fan of pork, but it's totally fine. So we will have pork once in a while, but beef, I love beef too. And I'll have, let's say 1/4 of my plate will be animal protein, where 3/4 of my plate will be vegetables. And I'm slim, I can't afford to lose weight. So what I have to do is I eat a lot of vegetables. So I'll have at least 2 to 3 servings where most of my plate is covered again. So I've had 3 big platefuls during the day and snacks in between. And so that way I am full and I keep my weight on. And I add on enough healthy fat, whether it is the coconut oil, whether it is the avocado, the extra virgin avocado oil, whether it is butter, or maybe it's avocado oil, or the extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil. There are so many other oils you can get in the health food stores. There's macadamia nut oil, there's sweet almond oil, there's walnut oil, so there's sesame oil. Just make sure it's good quality, that it has not been over processed, that it has been processed as minimally as possible. So extra virgin organic. All right, that's super important. But you'll notice that a lot of these different healthy fats give different flavors, which also helps to make sure that we are interested in our food, that it tastes good. So my afternoon snack I missed, and I'll either have another small handful of nuts, or I'll have a lot of leftovers in the fridge. So I might grab a bowl of soup, or I might grab another little bit of food that I had left over, whether it's maybe a little bit of the taco salad or veggies. That's another thing, is having a bunch of vegetables cut up in a container and having some homemade mayonnaise. It's really easy to make homemade mayonnaise. There's lots of recipes where you would take a couple of egg yolks and you beat them with a mixer until they're kind of a lighter, creamy yellow color. You drizzle in oil really slowly while you're mixing it, and it gets thicker and thicker and thicker. And then you would flavor it with, you could use apple cider vinegar, but truly I love lemon juice the best because it's really fresh. Lemon juice or lime juice, probably lemon juice. So when you have that base, that mayonnaise base, if you make it runnier, then you can make it into a Caesar salad dressing. And if you don't like the taste of extra virgin olive oil in your Caesar salad, if you find that's too strong, you could use an oil that has a more neutral flavor, like avocado oil, for example. I like extra virgin olive oil, so I use that. So you could use it as a salad dressing. You can use different herbs in it to make it more of like a herb garden dressing or a Caesar salad dressing. You can add anchovy paste, right? Lots of garlic to make that lovely Caesar salad. So it's everything minus the cheese, right? And we're not having croutons, but otherwise it tastes exactly like a full-on Caesar salad, which is delicious. So there's lots of different, that's another type of salad that I would have. So you can use it, and if you make that mayonnaise a little thicker by adding a little bit more oil, so it's thicker, You can add any types of different herbs to it, and it can be a lovely dip. And you're getting extra healthy fat. So if you cannot afford to lose weight, then you just have to make sure that you're never skipping a meal or snacks, and that you're adding enough healthy fats to every meal and snack. And you will keep your weight on, because you can get calories from healthy fat. If you want to maintain your weight, you have to eat the same amount of calories as you burn. And if you want to lose weight, then you're eating less calories than what you burn. Sorry, if you eat less calories than what you burn, you will lose weight. That's right. And if you eat more calories than you burn in a day, then you would gain weight, right? And it's pretty hard to gain weight on this eating plan, because I don't know, that's been my experience working with hundreds of students. So this eating plan is super powerful. What I find that really makes food taste good too is that, and I've gotten some tips from my future son-in-law. My daughter and my son-in-law are getting married this year, and he is a chef. He's an amazing chef. So he will add, very often he'll add like lemon juice to different types of meats that he's cooking, or even to vegetables. So for example, with broccoli, if you go back to my blog, Live Disease Free, I shared a bunch of recipes for the holidays. And in there, I shared the broccoli recipe. So we will steam broccoli, and we will take a little bowl with extra virgin olive oil. We will pour in some lemon juice, and we will grate some ginger with the zester grater. Is that long? I shared it on the video that I did. So go back on the old videos, either on YouTube or on Facebook. And you put ginger in there. You can put garlic in there. You've got lemon juice, and you mix it all up and pour it over your broccoli. Toss it around so it gets mixed up. Pour some red pepper flakes on top, and the broccoli is stellar. Anyone who hates broccoli will love broccoli. It has a beautiful flavor. So even when I'm, let's say, barbecuing chicken breasts, and towards the end when they're almost ready, I will have a mixture of olive oil and lemon juice and garlic, whatever you want to put in it, and baste your chicken breast. So I never use barbecue sauce. It's disgusting. If you take your own oil mixture of spices, or like I said, the lemon juice, etc., it tastes so much better. It has such lovely flavor. So try that. You'll love it, especially now that we're getting back into the springtime and back into the barbecuing season. It's just, and then you don't feel so disgusting. And remember, the barbecue sauce, be very careful, because those of you that are recovering, it's a no-no. But those of you that are not sick and you're eating it, it has high fructose corn syrup, tons and tons of sugar, tons and tons of preservatives and chemicals. It is not good for you. So go back to high flavor. So what makes this eating plan so amazing is that some general guidelines is that we're eating food as close to its natural state as possible. I never have a smoothie for breakfast. I chew my food. Number one, I do that because when I grind up fruit, I am pre-digesting the fruit. When I drink it, it makes my blood sugar go up, which would feed different bad microbes around the body. So I don't want to do that. I want to just feed the good guys. So I chew my food for that reason. And the other reason I chew my food is because when you chew your food, when you lock your jaw together, it actually opens up detox pathways, and it is detoxing your brain. And that is something that I learned at one of the courses that I took from these amazing hero doctors. I think it was Dr. Klinghardt, actually. So that is super important. And those of us that have any type of head issues, whether it's anxiety, whether it's depression, whether it's a neurological condition, right? Maybe it's headaches and migraines. We want to be, and just living on planet Earth these days, we have to be detoxing our brain. So that's a really awesome way to help detox your brain. So I like to chew my food. And also you start your digestion in your mouth. The saliva, this is what it's meant to be. So you've got saliva that has enzymes, and it's triggering the digestion in the rest of your body, which is super important. So chew your food. Do me a favor and chew your food. So the students I work with, it's a no-no to have smoothies in the recovery process. Absolute no-no. So we're eating real food as close to its natural state. Yes, if you have any type of inflammatory bowel, make sure that you avoid a lot of raw. You can avoid all raw if you don't tolerate it at the beginning. where you can steam, saute, stir fry, and oven roast the vegetables that agree with you. So the types of vegetables that we do not eat in the recovery phase of the Live Disease-Free Eating Plan, we stay away from the starchy vegetables. The vegetables like potatoes and sweet potatoes and yams and corn and peas, all those vegetables that are really starchy, stick to your ribs, make you feel full, we avoid those. Because our digestion is impaired when we have chronic disease, and that way the food is easier to digest and it does not provide a lot of food for those bad microbes that are lower down in our digestive tract. All right, and we want to keep our blood sugar low. We are switching from being a sugar burner to being a fat burner. That's this whole eating plan. So it is a modification of ketogenic and nutritional ketogenic, and it is called the Live Disease-Free Eating Plan. All right, so we're eating healthy, fresh food, very low carb. We're getting our body to shift to being a fat burner, which a lot of bad microbes don't like. So it actually will increase the length of years of our life and quality of our life by many years. It's been shown to do that in reversing all kinds of conditions, not just multiple sclerosis. So what I see in my students, I teach them, I have a course, and I teach them this eating plan in great detail. And if they're following it correctly, within 1 to 2 weeks, we start to see things like let's back up for a minute. If they were eating a lot of sugar and a lot of processed carbs, breads, sweets, pop, etc., then the first week can be rough because they're coming off the sugar, they're coming off the caffeine, they're giving up their alcohol, they've got headaches from coming off caffeine. But once they get past that first week, they go, oh my gosh, my energy is coming back so much. My bladder has improved so much. I'm sleeping through the night. And within a week or two, some people are even noticing subtle improvements in the strength of their legs, because a lot of them have weakness and mobility issues. So they're starting to notice little subtle improvements in their mobility. Not a lot yet, because remember, they still have the infections, but now they are putting those infections on a fast. All right, so they're not dead, but they're just like, we're cutting the food down way low, and then we're gonna start knocking you guys out. All right, so this is just the first step. It's super important to know. It's not going to totally heal you of chronic disease. It is going to help you to have a little more energy, mental clarity, feeling happier, feeling like you can cope, feeling like you're not so super stressed out. And like I said, all the other symptom improvements also. And when my students share those symptom improvements, that tells me they're following it correctly. All right, and that's the important thing, because some people think they are, and if you're not noticing improvements, then you need to do some adjusting. The last thing I wanted to cover today is substitutions, because many of you have recipes that you love, and let's say they're healthier recipes, like obviously pizza we're going to avoid for a while in the recovery. There are some healthier options, but in the recovery phase, we're avoiding that because we would have to make a crust out of something, etc. But substitutions that work. If you want to have a hamburger, and I've seen this in restaurants, actually a few years ago, they will substitute, they'll get rid of the bun and they will use lettuce for the bun in place of. And if you want to have tacos, let's say fajitas in a restaurant, you can ask for lettuce wraps in many restaurants. So that's really cool that they're offering that substitution. If you would like to have a creamy salad dressing, then what I love to do is I like to take tahini, which is ground up sesame seed. You could try other nut butters too, but I really like tahini. And you would take a tablespoon or 2 of that. You would add some olive oil. And this is just to texture and to taste. So it's really simple to put this together. And so you're gonna have olive oil, you're gonna have tahini, you're gonna add enough lemon to give it a nice tartness, the tartness that you like. And then you can add some seasoning salt. A seasoning salt that I really like is Herbamare. And it's Herbamare, like herb, Herbamare, I believe. It is a really nice seasoning salt that would have celery and a bunch of other different herbs in it. And it just adds body to whatever soups or stews or salad dressing. So I'll make that dressing and you'll notice that it's a little bit more stick to your ribs, more filling. But again, if you are recovering, then you have to know the whole deal and that we make sure that the total grams that we're having in a day, total grams of carbs, is below 50. And that's where you have to kind of get used to different foods, knowing what works and what doesn't. So there are some iffy foods in this eating plan. And the iffy foods mean that they're super healthy, but they're a little higher in carbs. And so we're not going to load up on them. So we're not going to just have a meal with 3 or 4 of these items, because that would push us over for the whole day. So the key is for those types of foods, which would be avocado and any of the root vegetables also. So carrots and beets, avocados. Be very careful with cherry tomatoes because they have a lot of natural sugar in them. So those types of foods, we eat a little bit of them. So on a big salad, my students might take a couple of cherry tomatoes and cut them up into quarters. Or they might just say, well, I'm just going to have a few slices of a big tomato because I know that's not quite as much sugar, natural sugar in it. And avocados, remember I mentioned we may have 2 or 3 slices on a big salad, but we won't have a whole avocado with a meal. And as far as carrots, having 1 medium carrot is usually okay in a day, as long as you're tracking all your carbs and you're kind of in that magic sweet spot where you are just getting enough, because the whole thing with this Live Disease-Free Eating Plan is high nutrition. It is so important. There's so many nutrients in plants that help us, that are, I should say, that are antifungal, and they really support immune function. All right, especially things like cruciferous, so broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, that whole family, they are very anti-cancer. Many of you have heard that before. So things like asparagus are fine, and green beans and yellow beans, so the string beans, and having all of the different greens that I talked about, the different types of lettuce. There's so many beautiful lettuce, and arugula and Swiss chard and kale. The students that recover the quickest, they tend to eat a lot of salad, and not the little salad from those little buckets, but try to get the salad, the lettuce that has grown mature, because it'll have a lot more nutrition. The stuff that grows in the dirt, if you can. I know some of you are very disabled, and I know some of you, it's cost and your ability to get things, but whenever possible, go for the big head of romaine lettuce instead of those little plastic tubs with things that are grown for just a very short time, and they're packaged quite a while ago, and they do not have very much nutrition in them. So we have talked about all the different types of meals that I eat, and just wanted to share with you also that if you are a noodle lover, you can also get these spiralizers that will take zucchini or carrots. So my students can eat zucchini, and they will run it through this machine, and it'll make it like zucchini noodles. And those are fine to have. So you could make a pesto sauce. Remember, the basil is fine, and the pine nuts and garlic and the olive oil are fine. We skip the cheese. You could make, we also skip the tomato sauces, because my students find that the cooked tomato is very acidic, and it just doesn't make people feel well when you're recovering. So skip all the cooked, but you can make a nice butter, garlic, basil, whatever. There's lots of different sauces that you can make that will work. All right, so that would be the noodles, and you can have lemon juice, lime juice, and apple cider vinegar, but remember, I prefer lemon and lime. Listen to your body, see what works best for you. And I'm just saying, and remember, the key is to make your meals taste good, to make sure you don't get bored. Start to experiment with different types of herbs. They all carry all kinds of nutrients. They have unique flavors, so you can go for the curries, you can go for the Italian herbs, you can go for the Mexican spices, you can go for Indonesian type foods. There's so many different cultures with so many different flavors, and so that's what we like to do. Is we love to take, in our family, we love different, like very different flavors. We like to experiment with different things, so we love the curries and all the other spices. Remember to avoid smoothies. I think that's it. And there again, just wherever you can, try to buy organic. And obviously, I can't afford all organic, and it's not accessible to me throughout the year. But now that we're getting into the spring, I'm going to be talking in one of the future Facebook Lives. I'm going to be sharing with you what we really need to do to optimize the nutrition in our eating plan, which is so important, because a lot of the stuff in the big stores, it does not have the nutrition that it used to have. So we want to buy local, and I'll be talking a lot more about that. Next week, I'm going to be talking about reading labels, how important that is, all right? So I'll be talking about that on the 11th. We'll be back on Wednesday, the 11th. And I'm going to run over to your questions and just see what kind of questions you have for me, if you have any, and I'll answer those. All right, so we have here, hello, Celia. Coconut, super high in carbs. Coconut is not super high in carbs. It is moderate, but the problem is that when we're in the recovery phase, so for any of us that want to recover from maybe severe chronic disease or just symptoms that we're kind of concerned that we're going down the wrong path with disease, then it is challenging to keep the total grams of carbs between 35 to 40, right? That's the sweet spot, but for sure under 50. And so we pick foods that are super high in nutrition because that's why we call it the Live Disease-Free Eating Plan, because it's not just like, well, we're getting our body to run on ketones because we know that scientifically your body being a fat burner is healthier. It's much more than that. It's understanding, yes, that's important, and feeding your body is important, but coconut, it doesn't have enough nutrition. It's not enough of a superfood. So I don't want you to waste your carbohydrates on coconut, where if you ate broccoli, you would get so much more nutrition out of it. So that's why we would avoid coconut and coconut milk for sure. Yeah, so avoid the coconut fat is totally fine. So you can still have that beautiful flavor in your cooking by using coconut fat, but then you're getting 0 carbs, which is what you want. And then you can save the carbs for adding 2 or 3 more vegetables, right? Which gives you so much more nutrition and fiber. And remember, when you are counting your carbs, make sure to count the fiber and your carbohydrate together, right? And we'd go under 50, but the sweet spot is between 35 to 40 total grams of carbs per day. So hi, Deba and Kelly. You're still in the hospital. You can't wait to get started. Yes, with the plan. I'm super excited to support you. Hello, Rob and Deborah, and hello, Dan. Microwave is definitely bad. So over the years, like after I've seen, you've probably seen online, or maybe you haven't, but where they take water and they boil it in the microwave, and then they give it to plants, and it kills the plants. So when we microwave our food, it denatures a lot of nutrients, and it denatures our food, especially if we cook it for long periods of time. So it's important to avoid the microwave for sure. I just take pans out. I like my stainless steel pans. We do have some cast iron pans, but definitely I just warm up my food in pans. I have a gas stove, so it goes nice and quick. Kelly, can I use frozen vegetables or fresh ones? And you already explained about the microwave. So there are people that live in areas that you have a hard time accessing a lot of fresh, and honestly, produce is becoming so expensive. I was talking with my kids that we really need to start processing food in the winter time. So when my kids were young, I used to blanch, like get a whole bunch of beans from my garden, but also from local gardens where I trust them. It's organic and it's vine ripened. They pick it that morning or the night before. And I would blanch a whole bunch of beans and freeze them. And I would do some canning too, but a lot of blanching. So if you have frozen, that's totally fine. If you can add a little bit of fresh, that's fine. But sometimes if the frozen has been picked vine ripened, it may have more nutrition than the raw that we're getting that's been shipped from these farms that are more like factory farming type practices, where we're seeing up to a 40% decline in nutrients. That's huge. So yeah, avoid the microwave if at all possible. I have a meter machine where I can measure radiation. And when we do have a microwave in our home, and I tested it, like we don't use it, it's just sitting there pretty much. So I tested it, and standing about 6 feet away from the microwave, it's 1,000 microwatts per meter. When it's on high cooking. That's when you're standing beside it, and that's what it's doing to your food. And personally, I would not use it. So Megan, hello Megan. How do you know when to add fruit back into your eating plan? So what we do is we go through the recovery part of the eating plan, and we find that everybody's different, right? Everybody is a different implementer. I've got, some very few, but a couple of students that, in 2.5 weeks are ready to start killing the infections. They've got the eating plan, they've done all the legwork as far as supporting their body, and they're ready to start killing. And maybe in 2 to 3 months, they're completely symptom-free. Where other people, it might take them 3 months, they're on 15 medications, they have no support, they're on disability. It might take them 3 months just to get off of the meds and get the eating plan and support their body, and then they're ready to start killing. It doesn't matter. If it's 3 months or 2 months or 5 months or 6 months, it's not years. Even if it took you a year to get better, right? Many of you have been sick for so long. So with respect to the fruit, I have in the eating plan, in the Live Disease-Free Eating Plan, we say that it's okay to have a small portion of specific fruit. So it might be like 1/3 of a cup of berries, like small, right? Half a green apple, 1 kiwi, that's it. And we have it 30 minutes before breakfast so it can digest, go down the digestive tract. It's not going to get stuck with our breakfast and start to, feed the infections down the way. We want to really optimize nutrition. There are some students that say, I'm just taking all fruit out for the first little while because I just want to move quicker. And you can still have fresh lemon juice, fresh lime juice for the vitamin C. You can drink it with water. You can still supplement with natural vitamin C also. But the key is that when you are completely symptom-free for a long period of time, for me, I would say, 3 to 4 years, I was really following this really well. And then I started to test if I could have a little bit more fruit or a little bit of quinoa once in a while. And I did have that, but I really pretty much live like this, and it's because I feel the best. So you get to pick. Once you're feeling well and you have energy, your taste buds will be different. Your values on food will be different. It's called freedom. It's freedom from a scale, freedom from those crashes in the afternoon. You have constant energy, and you can perform really highly at work, with your grandkids, whatever it is that you want to do, volunteer work. But the key is that you want to first get well and have a foundation to test against, right? And then to see, so the second part of the eating plan, once you've recovered, all your disease symptoms have been gone for, I would say, at least 6 months, then you can test things and you can see what works for you and what doesn't. And that would be the Live Disease-Free Eating Plan. So it's for life, right? That is what we do for life because we've learned a new way, and it's freedom, it's energy, and it's longevity. It's anti-aging, and we all want that. It's the cheapest anti-aging program. All right. So do you eat fruit or wild salmon? Mary is asking. Yes, as I mentioned already about the fruit, and the wild salmon is really tough because there is so much pollution in our oceans. I do still have wild salmon once in a while. I also take a lot of chlorella, which really is a good binder, but the problem is it's not just mercury, there's other heavy metals also. So you should, and that's what I teach people in the program also, you should constantly be detoxing heavy metals because it's in the air we breathe, and I'm going to be talking more about that on another Facebook Live. It's in our water, it's in our air, it's in our food. We can't get away from it, so we constantly need to be detoxing for sure. And so I still do have wild salmon. And then Dan, you're doing a day cleanse, I believe. Way to go. Oh, here we go. You said eating raw on a 28-day cleanse. Way to go. You have come a long ways. And Dan, make sure that I know you're a wellness champion, and I hope that you listened to my grad support call that I did because I shared some amazing information about parasites that you guys are not aware of. Hello, Graham and Laura Lee and Jeff. So yes, that's a really big thing, Jeff. Oh yeah, Jeff. I actually had one student too that he didn't realize that all vegetables have carbohydrates in them. All right, so it's not just the corn and the beans, etc., and grains. Like some people might think that just grains have carbohydrates, but there are some carbohydrates in every single vegetable. Things like salads, lettuce would be lower in carbs. things like broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts would be kind of low to moderate. And then we have moderate would be like avocados, carrots, beets, etc. And then the highest carbs would be like white potato, sweet potato, corn. Those would be the super high carbs. So yes, there's carbs, and that's why we need to track it. And you don't do it all the time. You do it just for a couple, 3 days. There's a really good app on the phone you can use. It's a chronometer app. And that app will track your carbs for you, but make sure you measure the total, not the net carbs. So the total includes your carbohydrates plus your fiber. And that should be under 50, but the sweet spot is between 35 to 40. Hello, Carlos. Megan, you bought organic pork sausage, but you're worried that it's too fatty to have them. So if it is healthy fat, if it's an animal that was raised with, for example, I don't know what kind of sausage, but if it's like beef sausage, but if it's grass-fed, it's going to be higher in omega-3, and that would be an anti-inflammatory essential fatty acids, and that would be healthy. So it's really not the fat that's the problem. Be very careful with sausages because a lot of times there is sugar in sausage, there would be fillers, and sometimes they don't have to label everything, and I don't know why. I think it has to do with the amount in it. So if I'm eating sausage, I would eat it from a butcher that I trust, that they say, no, the only thing in here is meat and spices. And again, try to, buy, if it's going to be sausage, then the fat would be, from, if the animal is fed GMO corn, then that's not good. So try to get animals that are, like if you're going to go for something like that, try to get animals that are fed better feed. Non-GMO is ideal. Hello, Natalie and Rachel and Sylvia and Neva. Mary, what about making a juice with raw vegetables? I discourage my students from juicing at the start because it is so hard for them just to take bitter vegetables and to juice them and to drink it. The thing is that everything that we're doing in the Live Disease-Free Eating Plan is to build health, all right? Yes, there's nutrients in those vegetables, but what about the fiber? We need that fiber for our healthy microbiome. That's what our healthy microbiome wants. And if we cut out all the fiber, what are the healthy microbes they're not gonna wanna live there, right? So we're repopulating our gut with fiber. So that's why I say chew your food. Allow this incredible miracle to do its job with the digestion from your mouth all the way down through your digestive tract. Chew your food, detox your brain, added benefit, and enjoy the flavors, right, of the food. And just try to get more vine ripened. And like I said, one of the future Facebook Lives, I will be talking about the importance of all of that. So Mary, you like cereal in the morning. What do you think of paleo pro granola? So with paleo, it is healthier than the typical North American diet for sure, but the people that I work with, and I know for sure that you're dealing with chronic disease too, is that there are still too many grams of carbs in the paleo eating plan for you to recover. So we do not cook with nut flours. We don't do any baking because that adds up really quickly. And you are gonna feed those microbes, and especially the nuts, etc. And that's probably what you're dealing with because paleo is grain-free also. So they're probably using nuts and seeds and things like that. So we don't do any cereals because you'll find that it's challenging treating these infections. And what I want for my students is I want them to recover as quickly as possible. I want them to see symptom improvements. And when you follow this eating plan really well, people within a week to 2 weeks, they start noticing improvements. And then they're like on fire because they're like, oh my gosh, I really see hope for myself. All right. And what is my thought on goat yogurt? I would personally avoid all yogurt, goat, while you're in the recovery phase, Joanna, because I know with dairy, there is lactose, and I'm sure with goat milk, there's a goat milk sugar in the goat milk also, so I would avoid it for now. All right, it probably is not gonna bother people as much as the dairy because the protein in dairy is very similar to the protein in gluten, and people with chronic disease are usually sensitive to both. But the key is that when you have chronic disease, that you have such a high level of infection in your body, and it is very challenging to turn those infections around, to treat them properly and recover. So we want to use as much strategy as possible. And the eating plan is called Strategy, and that's the Live Disease-Free Eating Plan. It is strategic. It is very, very strategic. So throw out all the science. The science is good. Sorry, I love science. But beyond all the science, it works, right? And that's why this eating plan is going to be so huge, is because it gets results. It makes people feel well. And I know, because I've been on it for at least 2 years, and I don't have to be on it, right? Because I've recovered years ago. But I value feeling well. I'm a very high achiever as far as work, because I'm very passionate about what I do. And many of you are the same way. And that's why we get sick, because we're the ones that go, 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 go. And we have these infections and they get out of control and we hit a brick wall, right? But then you have to learn how to turn that around. So I think I've answered, there's still a few more questions, but do you eat gluten-free bread? No, no bread at all, none. And I went through the Easter holidays, no chips, no desserts, ate well, enjoyed my grandkids, ran around with them, had very long days. I'm very, very grateful that even though I was diagnosed with MS 28 years ago, that I can live this amazing life being MS-free and helping so many people recover. So that's it for this week. So next week, I'm going to be teaching you the importance of reading labels. It's super, super important. And how to read labels. And this is to do with eating food, etc. And if you are at a place where you are living with chronic disease and you're done with it, like you're just like, I can't do this anymore. I want to recover. I want to get my life back and I'm ready. Then make sure you watch my masterclass training, and it is posted in the feed below this video and above this video also probably. And so in that masterclass training, you're going to understand how I recovered and how so many wellness champions have recovered also from not just multiple sclerosis, from many types of chronic disease, by treating the cause. And that is the big factor, is treating the root cause, which is mostly infections. All right. So if you're ready to be a wellness champion, as these other wellness champions are, and you're going to meet a whole bunch of them there on that training video, because I showcase a lot of case studies, please go through that. If you would like to know more about when I talk about infections causing chronic disease, MS and other chronic disease, if you'd like to know more about that, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel also. You can also watch videos on my Facebook, on this Live Disease Free Facebook page. There's lots of videos there. But I also have a YouTube channel, and I have a ton of videos. There's a 5-part series where I talk about multiple sclerosis and fungal overgrowth, multiple sclerosis and Lyme disease, multiple sclerosis and viruses, multiple sclerosis and parasites. So you really see how this huge amount of research showing that you're dealing with infection. And it is so super exciting to see my students, how we're helping them recover quicker and quicker, because we're getting a better understanding of these infections and the best ways to treat them and which ones are involved. So with that, if you're ready to be a wellness champion, make sure that you watch that masterclass training, and then you can literally start this week and you can join us. We have a class of over 70 students from all over the world that are recovering from chronic disease. And we would love for you to join us if you're ready to go to work, and if you're ready to take your life and your health back. All right. And if you want this to be your best year in many, many years. All right. So with that, I'm going to let you guys go. We'll see you here next week. Same time. Take care and bye-bye for now.